She's not here yet. She didn't give me any response yet. That's okay. I don't think we usually do. It's okay, just pass it.
Because we passed it.
I'll give you later.
All right. Good morning. Welcome to the first day of final presentations. Teams will have 15 minutes to present, 5 minutes for questions. I'll be keeping your time. If you have some clients in the room. So the teams will be presenting basically how they succeeded this semester, lessons learned, where they ended up, a view of their success. We have 5 presentations today. So with that, I think first up is Dragon's Den.
Should we start?
I will give you 1 second to get ready.
All right.
All right, ready when you are.
So hi everyone, we are Team Trailblazer, and first let us introduce ourselves.
I'm Albert, I'm the programmer and the designer.
Hi, I'm Marie, programmer and artist.
I'm Xiaoshen, the programmer.
I'm Richie, the art director and the sound designer.
Hi, I'm Jessie, the environmental artist.
Hi, I'm Sophie, I'm the producer and the character artist. Our instructor is Mike and Ricardo, and also our client is Julia.
Yeah, so quickly recap from our mid-presentation. We're making 3 different prototypes for the 3 different parts of the indoor ropes course experience in Dragon's Den. They are, firstly, the X-Trail Glasses AR experience on the ropes course where the player will interact with the pillars. Secondly, a interactive cutscene on the Quiet platform where the player will experience the beginning of the story. And the third one is a ground game level where the player will be having a treasure hunting adventure with their dragon friend. And the first one is in X-Trail AR glasses, and the second and the third one will be in Quest 3. Let's take a closer look with our video.
Okay, so after the half and the playtest day, we figure out that there's a lot of, we received a lot of feedback from the players. So first, the player asked for more challenges and tasks to finish, so we've added a few game levels to the ground part. And also the player needs an ending because there wasn't a clear end state during the half. Also, we found out that the player didn't notice the obstacle that they should be shooting at outside the window. They only shoot at the dragon all the time because they didn't build a connection in between the shooting mechanism and clearing out the obstacle. So, and also the player is asking for more obvious visual and sound feedback after hitting the dragon. Also, the player is needing more hints for what food to shoot.
And during the playtest, we also got some very good feedback from our kids. And one of them, he said that I can see the future through these glasses, which make us feel very happy. And also, we got some very constructive criticism from our players. And like the dynamic shaders might result in a little bit of disorientation. So we replaced the dynamic shader effect with the static ones in our final version, which will flash like pulsing around the pillars. And aligning our project to Dragonstone is difficult. So we tried in ETC's first floor to those pillars outside our building first, and then tried in Dragonstone. But when we were trying to align our project in Dragonstone, since we want it to be very perfect, so data like distance and angles have to be very precise. So we had to go up to the higher rope course again and over again, repeat measurements and adjustments. But our efforts worth it, as you can see those pictures. And then for the zipline, what we got the feedback is too fast. As you can see the video, like the whole process of the zipline, it lasts only for 4 seconds. But we still tried, so we made a prototype for our players on zipline. But still, it's too short for us to grab a chance to integrate engaging gameplay for our kids. So we move on.
And also from the playtest, some player mentioned that they want our game to be more challenging, so we add an extra mission for them. So as you can see, the dragon will require the blueberry under certain cases, and the blueberry represent the elements of water. So after the player feed the dragon with a blueberry, the dragon will fly out of the window and put out the fire on the propeller for the player. And in the real world, we notice that a lot of children, they are likely to move around and even out of the boundary, which is not safe. So we add a lot of obstacles around them to restrict their movement in a visual way. And to solve the queue problem, we split the original queue into play zone and fast pass, and it makes the whole process more efficient.
So for the level that we have on the ground floor in the quest, we added more gameplay and goals because our players were saying that there wasn't enough. And so we have new mechanics matching the color of the fruit that you're shooting to the color of the targets that you're hitting. And once you successfully do that, you'll receive some treasure. So that's the goal. And we also tried to make the interactions and mechanics more obvious by using really strong colors and adding visual effects and more sound effects. And to encourage physical movement throughout the play space, we have these virtual windows that are aligned with the real windows, so the children can run back and forth between them and use different viewpoints to try to see the targets outside. And so we also have some pass-through effects to make that a little extra special, and we changed our giant slingshot that we had to a handheld one so they could actually run around.
We are also having other iterated features, both in the performance and the art assets. So we've repainted the foliage texture in replace to the shader for better visual performances. Also, previously we have this weird geometry going on in this picture. It's happening in the fog effect. And we use column masks to render objects in separate layers in order to solve this particle sprite intersection problem.
And for animation, so during the playtest, our children tell us that, okay, I'm not pretty sure if what's the dragon is feel like, because at that time, our animation looked like this. Only 2 states, like happy or unhappy. And so, when we are making the iteration, we make like more animation, so that it can show like different state of the dragon, and we are trying to make the animation like more abstract, like in a more exaggerated way. So yeah, you can see like there's actually difference between these 2 animations.
So some lessons learned after we actually put this game in the space and had the children in the after-school program try it. So they loved it. They were lining up to play, and they were really excited when they got to play. They actually helped each other put on the quest. That's something interesting that we found. They would help each other and then teach each other how to play. So that takes a little load off the facilitators. And they also started to play with each other, even though some people were in the headset and some people were not. They were like role-playing with each other, so they were trying to feed each other fruit and slingshotting things at each other, of course, and dodging. But even though we found that not everyone followed the gameplay that we intended, I think everyone had a lot of fun, so that's the most important part. And so in the future, if we were going to do more prototypes, we would probably lean into that and make something that's either social and like role-playing, or we can make something a bit more like a toy, open-ended interactions, and like less like a whole game that they have to follow.
Yes, and the other lesson we learned is about that, okay, so if we can really try our best to align the virtual objects with the actual scene as accurate as we can, you can create magic. Like this whole thing about dragons flying out the window and then flying back is really, the children love it. But also, it has to take lots of time. Like only getting the construction map from our client is not enough. You have to go there as much as you can. So for future mixed reality team, please arrange your meeting ahead of time with your client as early as possible. But once you get it, you will get these wow moments from the children, and they will love it. And this afternoon, what we are going to do is that we are going to deliver the final prototypes and documentation to Julia, our client. We are going to deliver like three prototypes, and also the how-to videos for staff, because well, at first we showed Julia our documents, and she was like, maybe staff will not take a look at the documents. They prefer videos, so immediately we start to make videos for them, like give the very detailed instruction from, okay, so here's the quest, you got it, and you open the box, and okay, how you put it on, and all the details related to that. And also we are going to give the advice for future developed teams so that for them, if they are going to develop more on this project in Dragon's Den, they know where they are heading to. Thank you. Any questions? Yes.
I wanted to hear a little bit of detail about some of the alignment problems, because it seemed like that was one of the major challenges. How did you end up figuring out how to adjust it to the space so that you could get the windows to be relatively stable as opposed, do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, Jesse, would you like to take that? Well, I can take that.
So we did put stickers and to tell them where to stand and where to start and where to look at, and so they calibrate it each time before the game starts.
Yeah, and for like how we make the project, like during the process, at first we got the construction map and we built a church according to that, but then we find it out it's not accurate enough, and so we go back and forth from Dragon's Den to our ETC and like just rearrange the size of it according to each of the test result, and then just do that. It takes lots of time to do that. Yes.
I guess between, you made 3 prototypes, what would you say was like possibly the most successful moment, like in terms of mixing the kids, the space, and the AR?
I would say looking at the kids playing it on the Quailove platform and their reaction to the animation, I think we did a pretty good job like conveying those emotion and made them think that, oh, they are the one who accomplished the level or the challenges in the game, and that's the point of making this whole MR experience for the kids in Dragon's Den 2.
Yeah,
and we're very proud.
Yeah, and also for X-Real one, like the one that on the rope course, the best moment is that when the children like really wearing the X-rail and standing there, and it works. That moment's like, okay, so he's like, okay, I'm touching it, and he's like playing with the special effect, and he's like on the rope course up there and doing all of that, and we were like, oh, great, it's the best time. Yes.
I'm curious, did you experience any accidents, any mishaps?
Fortunately enough, it was all safe and very smooth. Any accidents you guys encountered?
Clip fall down once when they were on the ropes course because it's high up, like to a second floor height. I don't know. At the nose clip of the
Yeah, because like this, we got the sticker from the
glasses.
Dragon's Den, but the sticker was not like sticky enough. But also like
Actually, it's
like
not
the-
the same thing, but it's actually the nose clip of from the extra glasses. It
Alright.
falls from the second floor's height.
Yeah.
And we had to
That happened
like,
once,
reinstall
and-
that.
Yeah, we have to like have someone pass from that direction, and yeah, it's the whole
Yeah.
process. Yeah, the children are like play in the rope course like much better than us.
All right. Thanks, team.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to Team Moonster's final presentation. This is our team, and our instructor is Shirley and Scott. So our client is Mike Hennessy from the Moonshot Museum. We're targeting middle school students for this project, and we have the experts who are the engineers from Astrobotics and NASA. This project is about a virtual reality prototype of NASA's Viper mission. We are designing this to spark the interest in the space industry among middle school students. So let me first introduce you what is NASA's Viper mission. So in about 6 months this year, NASA is going to send a rover to the South Pole of Moon and search for water ice in the permanent shallow area on the Moon. This mission will also help NASA to determine the landing location for the first woman and first person of color on the Moon. And Astrobotics is responsible for building the lander for this mission called Griffin. This is what Griffin looks like at the Astrobotic right now, and you can actually see it in the Moonshot Museum. Our goal for this project is to be inspirational, be immersive and fun, and we're designing for handing off to the later development. And I want to share one more thing with you before we talk about what we build exactly. So initially, for this project, our clients want us to help the Moonshot Museum to secure the funding for education and only focus on the camera functionality of the rover. However, after discussing with our clients, we decided to include almost all of the perspectives of this mission based on the team's capability. And today, we are really glad to share Moonshot Museum already received the 2024 NASA's grant for STEM education. Thank you. And so now it's official that our project is going to be installed in the museum and also taken to schools later.
Okay, so let me talk about what we actually made. So in our game, the player will be playing as the AI controlling Griffin and Viper, and the player will be working with the control center narrator, which will guide the experience, and the player will complete the mission of mapping the moon's surface and also looking for water ice. This is our playthrough video. So as you can see, the game starts with the landing animation, which will briefly talk about the mission and the goal for the player. And then during the final stage of the landing process, the player will be able to control the Griffin to land onto the moon surface. And after that, the player will be able to control the Viper rover to leave the Griffin lander and then moves towards checkpoints. And also within the exploration areas, the player will be able to look around the map and then see these drill sites. And then on the drill sites, the player will inspect them and then get a result from these sites. In the end, the player will race towards the goal before the battery ran out. Okay. So let's start with the Griffin landing. So as we just saw in the video, the game starts with the landing animation. And during the animation, it will showcase the Griffin lander moving from the Earth towards the moon. And then the narrator will talk about the mission. And then in the landing control, which is the final phase of the landing process, the player will control the Griffin to land within this target area. So for the control of this scene, the player has mainly two controls, one being the rotational control, which controls the tilting degree of the Griffin lander, and then also the horizontal movement. And then next to that is the speed lever, which controls the thrust power of the lander. It controls the vertical speed. Oh, I'm going to, yeah. And also on the very end, that one is it is the camera view from the Griffin lander. So this is basically like a simulation of the actual Griffin, having this camera from the Griffin's perspective to guide the player to land within this the blue circle, which is the target landing area. So let's talk about the Viper exploration. So this is our map, which is basically from start, and the player moves checkpoints by checkpoints, and then into this exploration area, and then in the end go into the goal. So here we separate the map into two parts. The first part being the tutorial part, which is the checkpoint parts. So the player basically get introduced to the controls of the Viper one by one. And then after that, the player will enter this shadow area, which is where the player will utilize the things that they learned in the tutorial. And then also race with the limited battery because it's within the shadow area. And then try to get as much drill sites as possible before getting to the goal. And this is our control panel for the Viper control. So on the top, the first one, you can see it's the information panel, which is basically just showing the relevant information for the current state of the game. And then the second one is the switching button, which is to switch different panels during the game. And then the middle one is the main steering functions for the Viper, which just steers the Viper. And then next to that is the speed lever that controls the speed. And then finally it's the narrator subtitle, which shows the subtitles for the narrator.
Okay, so for so for each checkpoint, we introduce some new mechanics. And for the first checkpoint, it is the speed lever. As you can see here, at the first start of our scene, we show a Griffin animation of it unloading Viper. After the animation finishes, the speed lever will be released for use. We have 3D indicators to show which direction is forward so that players will be able to know whether they should be pulling or pushing to move forward. And by utilizing the speed lever, players will be able to either move forward or backward to control the Viper. And the speed lever works in a similar way as the fuel lever in the Griffin landing scene. If player is able to reach the second checkpoint, we'll introduce a new system, which is the wheel turning system and the minimap system. At the start of the second checkpoint, we introduce the wheel turning system. With 3D indicating animations, we can show the player how to actually rotate the wheel. And when the player rotates the wheel, the camera rod attached on the top of Viper will also be rotating correspondingly. And the light blue vision cone shows the current forward direction that Viper should be going. If player somehow drives Viper onto a steep ramp, then a warning sign will be shown before Viper actually flips or reaches its maximum slope angle. If player just disregards the warning and keeps going, then Viper will be flipped and go back to the previous checkpoint. When player reaches the third checkpoint, a new system will be introduced, which is the minimap system. As you can see here, the minimap is an interactive button on the control panel. And by utilizing it, players will get used to how to switch between different functionalities on the control panel, which is for their future uses. And the minimap is a real projection of our real terrain. It shows the checkpoints as well as the positions of dry ice and water ices. It also shows the current path that Viper has traveled, so that player will be able to know where they should be heading towards, even if they missed our indirect guidances. We added the minimap function to serve as a realistic function similar to the real Viper mission, during which the NASA Control Center and Viper will be mapping the real terrain, detailed terrain of the Moon's South Pole.
So when player reaches to the checkpoint 3, they will be introduced to the camera and drilling function. This is what it looks like when the player toggles on the camera view. The purpose of this camera view is to detect the drilling site. After open the camera view, the player could have this additional viewport shows the first-person perspective of Viper, and through this viewport, player could look for the indicators of the drilling site, which is the yellow cone that on the right side. Once the drilling site was detected on the camera view, it will also show on the moon surface to help player navigate easier. When the player approached to the drilling site, they could use the drill function to get sample and analyze it. There will be a simple scoring system in the game. A successful detection of water will add 100 to it, and hydroxyl for 50. In this last exploration area, player will be introduced to the battery and battery limitation of the Viper. When player enters the shadow area, the headlight will turn on automatically. Viper is mainly powered by solar energy, but it also has built-in batteries for situations like this. And of course, the usage time of this battery is limited. So during the exploration in the shadow area, player needs to decide whether they want to keep exploring more drilling sites or save the battery for successfully exit the shadow and reach to the final checkpoint.
So next is game's ending scene. To encourage players to explore the moon as much as possible, now we have added a leaderboard at the end of the game. When the game ends, it will display the current scores in order. And we have made the leaderboard accessible as a website. Players can also view it on their phones and computers. Since our game has many interactive elements to ensure smooth gameplay, we have incorporated numerous visual cues throughout the game. For example, guidance for turning and speeding up the Viper, exploring lunar resources, and the correct direction to proceed, all help indirectly inform players of the correct gameplay process. To enhance the visual experience, now we have also made some art assets. This includes the models of Griffin and Viper provided to us by the Moonshun Museum. We also repainted the textures of the models based on the models of Griffin and Viper provided to us by Moonshun Museum to make them look more realistic. And these are the art assets related to the player's control panel. On the technical side, we started with many highly modular features which played a vital role in the later part of the development. We and our client can easily adjust the game's parameters at any time.
Now I'll briefly talk about the playtest. We have over 80 guests playtest our game throughout the semester. And we can tell that the middle school students really love to explore in the game. They can get easily used to the control panel and begin playing.
And also we observe that it is somehow fun to, for the audience members to watch the monitor showing the user view. They can take turns to play the game between the checkpoints and also discuss about the path of how to reach the checkpoints. We also get many valuable feedback and suggestions based on the playtest. Instead of standing, we decide to make the player sit to play the game in order to reduce the calibration issues arising from variations of the player's height. We can also enable charging the headset while playing to extend the battery life. Another feedback that we got from the playtest is that the player can hardly tell where they're facing while moving because the body of Viper is not moving with the steering wheels, as you can see. So we change the rover slowly turns towards the direction after it starts moving. As you can see, the Viper will always face the direction the player moves. We also add the headlight to show the direction they are facing. And this is the deliverables for the client. And also we want to thank about all the people that helps us improve the game. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you, and we are open to questions.
Hi, it seems like you built quite a bit at a pretty impressive quality, but the lighting design seems to be lacking. I don't know if it was a technical limitation. Can you talk a little bit about your process for lighting the scene and, you know, I think you have all these beautiful assets that could pop a little bit more in the scene.
So, so for the lighting, basically we show that there's like this area which is the shadow area So in reality, the area is actually like pitch dark. There's like no lights at all because it's like the self pole. So we still light it up a little bit because if it's like completely dark, it's like the player can only rely on like the headlights, which is too hard for the player to see. So that's basically where in the exploration part you can see the lighting is like kind of too dim, but also like not completely dark, if that's the question.
I also want to add to that, it's just like due to the performance of Quest 3, lighting is a little bit less vivid in the headset, and also it's even less vivid, like in the video we take. So it's slightly better if you view it in VR.
I thought overall your control system looked really good. I was wondering a little bit about the buttons on the side panel. Like all of your other controls are very large and easy for people to grab. Do people have trouble pushing buttons on the side panel? I was just wondering about that.
So initially, like during our playtest, it is like quite hard to press, but Jason made some like improvements for this problem. Maybe you want to talk more.
Yeah, sure. So originally, I think the 3D interactive buttons for Oculus wasn't working as what we were expecting. So even if players try to press down and like till the maximum, sometimes it just does not trigger. So we added some supporting features so that the buttons will be easily triggered. So even if like player is using like one finger or like the entire hand to push the button, it just activates. Yeah.
Also, so for the checkpoints, you get introduced to functions one by one. That also like unlocks the button one by one. So the button it is not like everything is already there. So it's like overwhelming. It is like, oh, you have this, and then you can do this, and then we introduce the next one. Yeah.
Thanks, team.
谢谢。Sorry. Hi everyone, we're Team Voxelberg. This is our instructor, Jan Desser and Shirley Sadrumacro. This is our client, Sebastian Durrell, he's here today. And this is our consultant, Mike Crystal. This is our team. To begin with, our client Sebastian is a professor of the modern language department of CMU. During his study, he felt that years ago, people were more open and bonded to other culture because at that time, the activities happened in physical location and people had to learn about and accept other culture. But now, it seems we've lost such kind of cultural integration since we're stepping away from the physical environment. So he really hopes that we could use the AR technology to build a game to encourage people to go to physical environment, to explore and learn about other culture. Have that goal in mind, we thought of post-crossing, which is an activity that people exchange postcards with strangers so they could share their stories and learn about other cultures of the world. And we found that post-crossing is really suitable for our main gameplay because postcards binds you and other culture together. It's about culture, it's about other people, and it's about physical location. Our client's second goal is to make the experience replicable, so he could bring the game to other cities and countries to make a bigger influence. So we're mainly building a game's framework, but the narrative content is replicable. But to better show the gameplay, we're also creating a sample content as a foundation for future development. So for the sample content's location, we choose Strip District, Pittsburgh, because Strip District is always a commercial area from the past to present where many cultural integrations took place. To be more specific, we choose 3 locations in Strip District as 3 game chapters, which can highlight 3 different corresponding cultures. The 3 locations are Macaroni Company, St. Stanislaus Church, and Brewing Company. Then Yuxing will give you a more detailed walkthrough of our gameplay.
So here is a demo of our game. So suppose you are at the Strip District and open our app. And the player will first enter their player name, and then they will start an onboarding session where a magical mailbox will be introduced and guide the player to the interactive map. So here is the interactive map with 3 pins on it where the players can visit. For example, if the player chooses to go to the Pennsylvania Macaroni Company, they can go to that location and open the air scanning to scan the environment, and a mailbox will pop up to give the player a first postcard from the NPC. And then the player will be asked to take a photo of the Pennsylvania Macaroni Company and choose a reply option and the stamps to reply to the character. So after the players send the postcard, they will receive a 3rd postcard from the NPC again, which tells more stories about this location. After the player goes through this story, they can collect the postcard in the album, and this post-crossing interaction will repeat 3 times. So here is a quick wrap-up for our postcard interaction process. And this process will take place every time when the player is at a location, and this process will take place 3 times in total. And next, Xixi will talk more about narrative in our game.
Thank you, Yuxing. We spent the first few weeks during the research and found out that immigrants from different countries have come together and built Strip District's colorful culture over years. We've selected 3 stories that best represent the cultural merge. To give you a better impression, we used DALL-E to generate this picture, which will not appear in our game. From left to right, there are Agostino Sanseri, one of the founders of PenMac from Italy, asked about the future of the store and after a devastating fire in 1920. A Robert Fischer, a brewmaster from Germany, shares the joy of people sharing laughs and good beer at Phoenix Brewery while it just reopened in 1865. Anton came to Pittsburgh and worked in a mill after a war in Poland. And after the 1930s St. Patrick's Day's flood that almost destroyed the Polish church, he and his wife Olivia sent postcards to the future to seek solace. By asking for what's currently in the Strip District, players are motivated to explore this area. So we will use Penmac story as an example. Imagine you're standing in front of Penmac and you just received a postcard from Agostino in 1920. So after reading Agostino's first postcard, the players will go and take pictures of the Penmac to prove it's still there. So we have 3 reply options for the players. A is encouraging support, where you can explore the character's personal struggles, achievements, and insights. B is inquiring about history. You can dive into historical content and the evolution of the places that the characters has once lived in. C is reflecting on resilience, where you can investigate the community support. All 3 stories have these 3 options, but with different names. We believe we can link the player's present observation with the postcard sender's past memories together to create a better game immersion. So let's assume we chose B, inquiring about history. So with the magic of the mailbox messenger, you can get a reply from Agostino in a minute. First of all, you can learn that the history since you ask by reading we highlighted the historical facts part. And you can also feel Agostino's surprise by reading the traits experience we've had also highlighted. So after reading all those postcards, we'll expect the players to know several facts. First of all, the store is opened in 1902. It experienced a devastating fire happened in 1920. They rebuilt the store with community support, and also it turned to an Italian import store selling olive oil, spices, cheeses, and also specialties foods. And that's the end of one single game loop, and same as the other story. You might find the task in the postcard is a little bit long, and same as our playtester feels. The postcard you once collect will go directly into the album that you can check it anytime. So that's the end of the narrative flow. Let's welcome Jim to talk more about technical art part.
Okay, thank you, Cici. And for the technical art part, the first part I want to talk about is our fake interior shader. Well, to make our players experience the fantastic real indoor scene in Stripe District, we create this shader. It can create a fake space behind a single plan. And we also developed a pipeline that form taking the panoramic photos in Stripe District and then turn it into the cube map used by this shader. Yeah, when the player rotates our postcard, they can see this fantastic effect. And for our character, our mailbox mascot, we created the model based on Tony's 2D design. We modeled this in Blender, and then in Substance workflow, we designed and created the texture and material. It's between the realistic and cartoonic style based on our story. Yeah, and the most important part, the rigging part, we did the rigging in the Maya, and we created a FK system for the basic action, and for the squat and jumping out action, we create the IK system. Based on this, we create 3 animations, idle, jumping out, and catching the card. And their transition is based on the Unity animator and C# script. Yeah, and then we also made some smoke VFX for our character when he's jumping out and catching the card emerge from the space. Yeah, we created this from VFX graph in Unity, and with the Unity animation event system, we can use the C# script to call the VFX using the functions in the timing we set up. Yeah. And to create our character's face, our first solution was creating the 3D face model and hybrid facial rigging, but this is too much more complicated, and we developed a more stylized and simple pipeline. We create the 2D sprite face. We first create the 2D animation in Procreate and then slice into a sprite sheet, and we made this animation texture and paste it into the 3D model in Unity, and then it creates this very interesting face. Yeah. And then the Tony stack part.
Thank you, Jim. As Shin just mentioned, well, we're not only developing a game sample, instead we want our game to become a framework which our client will be easily to transfer this game and replicate this game to another place in the world. In order to fulfill this goal, we create a bunch of data structure that can be easily added to the game, following our documentation, of course. For example, our game features a GPS-based pin that are shown on the maps. The player has to be physically in range of the location to be interactable with a pin. So in order to do that, we have made this process very straightforward. It only requires 4 steps, following the steps in our documentation. Creating the data structure, inputting the data, adding it into the game, and dragging it into the manager, and that's it. And similarly, a single set of 3 postcards defines a game quest. And adding a quest means that you want to add another narrative story to the game, which is also very easy to follow our 4 steps process. This data structure has been integrated into the game engine as a scriptable object, so the future developers can easily add them to the game. And we have very detailed documentations, including all the details we've just mentioned, and it has been separated into 3 parts. We have a technical documentation that includes details like programming and variable naming skills, so that future developers can use them quickly to follow our programming scheme. We also have a game design documentation where you can check the interactions as well as the philosophies behind our game design. Similarly, the narrative design also gives a detailed explanation of what is happening to our game stories. And when the future developers have our documentation in hand, they will find it really easy and straightforward to follow the instructions using the prefabs and scriptable objects in our game. And thanks.
Thank you, Tony. So I will be talking about how we optimize our UI and UX. I'll start with our playtests. So for initial weeks, we basically just test our prototypes in ETC and in main campus. And we also separately tested our narrative parts to see if the stories and the texts are appropriate. And after that, after we implemented more functions into our prototypes, we started to test in the strip district. And we also have our instructors, consultant, and also our client friends test our products in strip district as well. For interaction part, based on all of these feedback, we have a lot of changes and improvement, but I will pick the top important ones to share with you. The first one is originally we have a fit button for our virtual postcard. And then based on our playtest results, many of our users found this is very unintuitive. So we changed the interaction to like a physically swipe the postcard. So it's a gesture swipe. And on the right is how it looks right now. And also, to give our users an identity, we required our users to enter their username. So they can get a returned postcard, not returned, like a reply postcard, customized and personally just for them. And about AR navigation, so before our character model, our mascot, or our magical mailbox, you have to use your camera and scan all around to find it. But then we just fixed the location, like relocated the model so it can pop up in front of you. And to emphasize our cultural diversity, we incorporated the flag pattern from different countries, the Poland, the Germany, and the Italy. We also have created corresponding background music to show the specific and unique culture of that country. And to enhance our accessibility, we also created a reading mode, because Shishi just mentioned we have narrative, and some people think our narrative might be a little bit long. So we provided this mode for people to adjust the text size, and they can see clearly about our narrative. And also we provided the UI hints for our users to track their process and also to guide them through the whole gameplay. So whenever they got confused or they want to, and we also provided the choice to go back, because the users can always track back their last step whenever they're confused or they want to review the last step. This is our UI style and our design system, because we want to make it both interesting and still
clear and simple. For future possibilities, we will definitely hand over all of our design documents to our client so he can continue this project in other parts of the world. And also thanks to Professor John Balish to support our team to find more sponsorship and opportunities for competition or conferences. So let's do a quick recap. Our client's needs is to build, we target a young generation, and it's a replicable template or structure that encourage people to interact with the real world. And our project summary is we are a location-based AR game, happens in Strip District, and using virtual postcards to tell stories. The basic flow is find, read, scan, send, receive, and collect. So this is our special thank list. And we are open, and we just released our Android version yesterday, and we sent the email so you can download and install by yourself. And thank you everyone who helped with our team, and we're open for questions.
Yes, of
Yes.
course, yes.
We are designed to be an iOS, but we also have Android version. Yeah.
The cube map effect is really neat. It looks really nice, but I noticed in your slide deck that it still was set up in landscape mode instead of portrait. Does it display now in portrait mode? So you're holding your phone and you can see the three scenes come alive when you're holding your phone up and down?
So actually, the cube map is horizontal. It's not in the portrait mode. We can make it. We try to make it like portrait mode. We try to make it like horizontal view, but then we found that horizontal is more suitable for a 3D scene because the 3D scene is horizontal.
What do you think is the most memorable part of the experience?
The core of our gameplay is to exchange the postcard and also talk to the past and like you are in the present and you are talking with the people from the past, and I think that's the strongest part in our game.
Thanks.
Did you get a chance to playtest the creation of new quests? You mentioned that it sounds like it's designed to be done by someone who's not necessarily a programmer, and I guess I'm kind of curious if you got a chance to playtest that pipeline.
So during our working, we created the pipeline, and we have our narrative designer creating the narrative alongside with a technical creation. So in our group, we tried that pipeline. It works well. We haven't tested for other creators. We think it will work well because in our group it worked well.
So I understand that you've basically built a template that could be deployed, or you could go to other cities or other locations. What are the key, if you were to do that, what are the key elements that you need to replicate this? Stakeholders, like what are the kinds of elements that you'll need, or that someone would need to implement this again?
Basically, we need the GPS location information for the places you want to add into the map, and also you want some information about the quests that are shown on the postcards. And of course, if you want to change the form and you want to not use the postcard in the future game, you can definitely do that because it's just like basically an abstract data structure that keeps track of a kind of like a quest name, quest information, and quest content, things like that.
So my question is more about stakeholders. Who do you need besides the team, programmers, artists?
You mean how many people do we need for future development?
Who do you need to engage? You have a client?
Oh, I got it. So actually, for the future plan, there might be the like restaurants and other commercial sites in the Strip District, and we can cooperate with them. they can provide us opportunity to demonstrate our like posters in their store, and the players can start from the front after a launch, like after a launch or after an ice cream shop. They can hang around in Strip District, and maybe they can provide some advertisement fee to us because we're like advertising their stores, and that may be a better cooperation system and commercial. I don't know. Yeah.
It's time. Next team.
Okay, hi everyone. We're Vio, the animation production team. These are our instructors and creative consultants, and this is our team: Ryan, Ayaka, Z, Iran, Mia, Jashin, and Stephanie. So this is our agenda. First, let's go over our project overview. Our project goal is to create a 3D animation within the cavern with a panoramic screen and 3D stereo glasses. We're not only creating a 3D animation, but also an immersive watching experience. Our story draws inspiration from Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but unlike the traditional approach, we're telling the story from the monster's perspective. Our final deliverable will be a 3D animation in cavern and an in-display user manual for future animation projects. So this is our video.
Swollen, rapid, embracing. Rebirth felt like eternity. Will new life feel the same? I watched my body being constructed, step by step, as if I was witnessing a grand ceremony ushering in my new life. And I now anticipate the sweet unknown. I hope my rebirth has been blessed. I remember the rain pounding frantically on windows. The thunder striking. The lightning breaking through the sky. But I was fading. As the electric pulses surged through the stitched together cadaver, my consciousness flickered into existence. I felt an abrupt jolt that threw me into a realm of sensory overload. My new life has begun.
Okay, next we will proceed to our technical breakdown. This is the pipeline we've been using, which is the same as the one we presented during half. So basically, we've been using the same one throughout the semester.
So during our creation, thank you. We faced some challenges. The first one is how to tailor the experience to the audience's ears. And we decided to use spatial sound to guide the audience's attention. So to achieve spatial sound, we used Adobe Audition's 5.1 surround sound function. This might look similar to a typical audio editing screen, but there are some additional settings in this one. So since we have 4 speakers in cavern set at the front left, front right, back left, and back right sides, we'd be able to separate sound effect and decide which speaker they are going to be played on. And this is how you will hear in the cavern.
So, since we are creating a 3D stereoscopic animation inside a 270-degree curved screen, there's so many things that's so different from the traditional screen that we are previously rendering. So we have to develop a specific rendering setting for this specific project. And we are using the in-display, which is a solution in Unreal Engine for virtual production. And we are using the movie render queue to do all the rendering, and this is the setting we are using. And since we are using the curved screen, so it's in total composite with 3 screens from left to right, each with a 1920 times 1200 resolution, so we have to figure that out, right? And since we are using a 3D animation, so we have to render it twice. So we have to render separately a left eye and a right eye. And then we do the compositing inside Premiere, and since we are using a top-down projection method, so we have the left eye on the top and the right eye on the bottom.
So here's another challenge that we're facing. We wanted to showcase the time lapse within a short period of time, so we decided to render out the animation with the different lighting. And as you can see, with the lighting and environment changing, the monster in the water tank is actually being more and more completed. And the last challenge, we had limited time to create the character model and the animation, so we are tailoring the level of detail to the camera shots. Basically, we're paying more attention to what will be presented and paying less attention to what will be hidden. And as you can see, for the wide shots or medium shots, we're using monster models with lower level of detail. But when it comes to the close-up shots, we're using the monster model with the highest level of detail.
And we provide a assets library, and we create all the assets based on our story. And these are entirely our creation, from the early white model to the texture and adjustment in the Unreal. And here are some assets we created in procedure generation to quickly enhance the environment. And I'm going to show you 2 videos about like our overview of our scene and a close shot of our assets. And here's our close-up asset video. Yeah, that's it.
We create the texture of our assets in Substance Painter. First of all, we use fill layers to create the basic materials. And upon that, we add stencils and paintball layers to create details such as scratches and edge wear to make the texture more believable. And also, we use height map to fake some details on our assets. For instance, we use a stripe, a pattern, height map to fake the coils on the Tesla ball. And here are the characters model we use in our scene.
So like according to our storyboard, we have a time lapse inside our scene, which is going to show the time passing in our story. And then we are using the environment to help to do the storytelling, as you can see. So we are giving different layout in different time scenes. So like we can just show that the environment is gradually changing with the story going on to make everything look more realistic. And then as what we have mentioned in our midterm presentation, that we're using a vertex blending technique to help to blend the material on a single asset. And in this case, we're blending the materials on the wall asset so that we can show that the time is actually passing through the whole story, and also make the people feel that actually the time is passing. And also lighting is a very crucial element inside our story. So we have different color tones for each different time period. And each time period has a different specific emotion, so that we can use these different lightings to build up the emotional curve throughout the whole story to help us better do the storytelling.
So there are several visual effects and simulations in our animation. The first one would be the beginning scene, a floating brain inside of the tank. So there are two parts. The first one will be the underwater bubble and then the moving nerves. So for the underwater bubble, we use Houdini to generate a particle system to generate the bubbles. Basically, it's a moving mesh, and then we generate particles accordingly and surface it in the mesh. And then for the moving nerves, we use Blender to procedural model it. Basically, we create the curve and add some noise to it, and then solidify it to make it to add thickness to it. And also, we connect to one of the noise map to the timeline, so it moves accordingly. And then for the lightning at the end of the animation, we create these visual effects inside of Unreal Engine using blueprints and the Niagara system, control its timing and appearance.
So during the creation of the monster, we want to make sure it stick to the original novel instead of like any movies later on. And you can see here's a quote from the novel that the doctor picked the most beautiful part he can find from the monster. That is to say, like the intention is to create a perfect human instead of like a monster at first. So we choose to give the monster a rather handsome face instead of like to avoid making like a Frankenstein stereotype. And here's the two different models with like different detail levels to fix the cavern function.
We also created the doctor based on the concept art. And when it comes to the color pattern, we chose a lighter color for his shirt so he could stand out in the environment. We also downloaded some animations from Mixamo, tweaked some joints, and blended the animation, adjusted weights to create this whole loop of animation.
So as for the electrocution animation, which is the hard part for the whole animation. So like, as you can see, there's currently the 3 different passes on the screen, which showing the different process of creating this animation. And the final goal for us is to make it more dramatic, since we are making animation, but also make it realistic enough. And also, we are building IK chains for all these chains so that these chains can move along when the monster gets electrocuted.
And for the facial expression, we use the blend shapes to morph the monster's facial expression. Here's a slider. We developed several like facial expressions that we can blend together and use the slider to adjust it. And this is how it looks like if we bring the animation from Maya to Unreal Engine Sequencer. So to summarize it, we're creating a 3D animation for the panoramic screen and 3D stereo glasses. The length is going to be 3 minutes, and we will have the 4 guests in cavern procession, and we're targeting the general public that is not prone to motion sickness. And the guests will be standing at the center of cavern. And we would like to convey our special thanks to our voice actor, our composer, and our cavern technicians. So this is the end of our presentation. Thank you. And now we're open to questions.
So is there any plans of turning this into a 2D?
Yes. So we are planning on like making our like own director cuts, so that we can convert it into the normal regular resolution. So we can just make it like a normal animation. We would like to like sign up for like a contest, and we were trying to compete for awards. Yeah.
I didn't notice the time-lapse effects until the presentation today. Did you play test that? Did people generally pick up on that art direction, or?
Yeah, actually, when we play tested it and we had the people fill out the questionnaire, we also asked them about their feeling, and usually, like, I would say, like, most of the audience, they could actually like pick up that information.
If you could go back to the beginning of the semester, what would you do differently?
I think if we go back to the semester, we will definitely like consider more like how we can actually utilize the whole space better. So like considering throughout the whole piece for now, like I think from the feedback people give the most is that they think the electricity effect in the end was like the part that they feel like the most like fully utilize the 3D, the 3D and also the space. And also like since we're having a 270 degrees screen, so that we are not like kind of restricted to the normal constraint that we're only fixed on a 1080 screen, so it definitely can move our attention or focus like more, but not only focus on in the center. So I think that's some places that we definitely need to consider more if we can redo it. Yeah.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, we're Team Questure, and today we're excited to share our unique game about sign language. Here are team members. I'm Chloe, and we have Tyler, Karen, Bella, James, and Willem. This is our client JT from Psychology Department, and our advisors Tom and Heather. This semester, we successfully achieved both our primary and secondary goals. Our game aims to teach hearing people about American Sign Language alphabet and also support data collection as an extensible research tool that our client can utilize in the future. Now let's move on to our live demo.
Okay, so this is our main menu. After we clicking start, we're entering the game selection page. We have 3 mini games and 3 difficulty levels to choose. And on the top, there's also a feature that allows player to choose left or right hand. Now let's entering the letter selection. Yes, we can randomly select the letters, or like we can let the player to choose themselves. We also have a short animation before each level to tell you a little backstory about this little cat, which will accompany you throughout your learning journey. And this is the ready page. It's used to just calibrate the hand and the camera position. So this is our player's hand skeleton. In the middle is the letter in the balloon shape, and we have hint image. On top of the hint image, there will be also tips for the letters that are easy to be mistaken. And the goal for this level is to fill up the balloon and feed the cat to make the cat happy. Yes, now we can go to the second level. The speedrunner. Yes, this one is for train the player to do the sign faster. As you can see, yeah, the background story is about like we're entering the cat's dreamland, and player need to do the sign fast in order to not let the cat to run into obstacles. And we also got combos, and the speed will be faster. Yes, and we can go to the third level. Third level is for advanced only because it requires player to know all 26 alphabets to play. This is the application level that in the middle we will provide an image, and on the bottom is a blank for a player to fill. And if the player is doing it right, we'll get a cat stamp. Yeah, and that's it for the demo. Thank you.
All right, so as you can see, this is our game loop. So we have 4 parts. First, we provide the player with a correct gesture hint, and after they react to it, we have a machine learning model where we read and keep track of their hands. And at the end of the day, last but not least, we'll provide feedback to motivate them through the gameplay. And let's dive into the first part. So at the beginning of the semester, we went through a lot of online American Sign Language imagery, and most of them have this same issue where their hand orientation is really confusing. For example, on the screen here, the A is like this, but H is like this. They're both hand palm facing forward, but in reality, the H is like actually here. So it's really confusing. I mean, this image is going to be fine in classroom scenario because teacher will go over it and actually demonstrate in person how the palm will face, but not in game. In game, players are all by themselves. So we end up develop this system where we trace over the correct gestures. Also, we provide some secondary image for some tougher gestures where the thumb or other fingers are hiding behind others. And this is our set before and after. It's less complicated, it's less information than the live action hands, which is easier and faster to read, especially in game scenario. But then we thought about we can't really give up the photo since it's so accurate and so it's just easier to read in general. So we went back and brought the photo back. We went to the studio, took all 26 letters, again in studio lighting, and we put it in front of the game in the letter selection page where the player will get more time looking them through. That's the set of a lot of hands on the screen. And then this is how they look like in the letter selection page. You guys might saw it earlier in the demo. And this is how the line drawing kind of style fits into the ready page. And then Tyler will be introducing the second part.
Thank you, William. For the second part, I'll be talking about how do we interpret the player's reaction. Let's start off with an overview of the whole process of interpreting the player's hands and the sign they show. We split the whole process into 3 modules: a data collector, a model trainer, and a live reader. It's aiming for efficient workflow. Yeah, a quick recap on what we've done before halves. We used a webcam with some software library to identify human hands, and we also trained a machine learning model to recognize hand signs and serve as the game input. Yeah. After halves, we started to collect data from all the team members and also reached out to our SME, Eric, to make sure we trained the model with the correct sign representations. For example, we originally trained the letter K with our middle finger opening outwards, but Eric suggested us to point the middle finger forward, which is much more common when finger spelling in real case scenarios. After collecting a whole bunch of data, we were expecting the model capable of telling the difference between similar signs like M and N. Also having a list of confidence scores representing how likely a sign representation would be interpreted as a certain letter. We also wanted the model to be good at interpreting ambiguous signs. For example, if we put our thumb directly under our ring finger, we were hoping that our model would interpret the sign as both M and N with some equal confidence scores. However, after training all the data, we have a model suffering in a situation called overfitting. Overfitting in machine learning means overtraining a model, which in our case, resulting in a model having bad abilities to distinguish ambiguity between similar sign representations. To solve this problem, we use some techniques to adjust the model, like adding noise to question the model's performance in order to help the model be more generalized with ambiguity. If you want to know more about the details and what we've done, you can check out our blog post and also our documentation. We also added signs require motion and movements. For example, J and Z requires doing dynamic sign representations. At first, we tracked a specific point and trained another model to learn the path of the point and map it to a corresponding sign. However, we realized that when tracking one point, the model will accept incorrect signs as long as the path of the tip we tracked obeys the path we trained for the model. So we used a more complicated approach to keep track of the whole hand and also manipulated the data to train a more suitable model for learning sign language. And again, if you're curious about the details and what we've done, we have a blog post and documentation. And now I'll hand it over to Bella for the next part.
And the third part of our core loop is to take the gesture input from the player and give corresponding feedback in the game. First of all, we crafted our entire narration around this cat on a Roomba to keep the game engaging and fun, and so that the player can be more connected to our game. And in the first game, we created this balloon filling up shader to indicate if the player is doing the correct sign, and if so, how long to hold that sign. We also crafted this cat eating fish animation, as well as a cute cat sticker to reward the player if they did a good job. In our second game, we have the letter shaking effect to tell the player if they're doing the correct sign. We also implemented a danger zone where the letter will turn red if the obstacle is approaching too closely. We also have a speed display to tell the player the current state of the game. We also implemented score calculation that rewards longer and more consistent game performance. And this score calculation also encouraged the game to feel encourage the player to feel competitive and come back and play more. In the third game, we implemented this concise UI design to signal the player if they're doing the correct gesture, and if so, it will be registered. We also created a cat stamp animation to reward the player. And the final score is calculated based on the length of the word as well as the quantity of the word. We also have a result page so that the player can reflect on what they missed so that they can improve for the next performance. To improve our overall gameplay experience, we had a total of 8 playtesting sessions and at least 54 playtesters. Most of them found the game really engaging and fun and helpful to learn American Sign Language. However, we'll also receive feedback on places that we can improve on. In particular, the game plateaued in difficulty, some signs were hard to read, and the ready page wasn't clear enough. So in particular, we increased our speed curve to be steeper for our speed game. We updated our UI for the ready page to be more concise and easy to read. And we moved out our left-hand, right-hand selection to the main game page so that it's easily accessible. And these minor modifications greatly improved our entire game experience. And now I'll hand it over to James.
So our second goal is to make our project not just a game, but also a research tool. So we implement the parametric game system and the research data collection system. So we want our game to be flexible so that our client can change all the key variables of the game. But meanwhile, we want to make our game simple so that our client doesn't need to go to the source code to change those variables. So our solution is parameterize everything. So we have a list of parameters like the speed of the game and the gesture hold time. And we just put them into one JSON file so that our client can just change that one file to manipulate the whole game. We also parameterize the word used in the third minigame, so there can be more words to spell. So as a research tool, we need to collect some data. There are two data we're just interested in. They are the accuracy and the reaction time. The reaction time refers to how long it takes from the model appears in game to like the player actually posts the sign. Well, the accuracy refers to the average of confidence score within that reaction time. Next, we need to store those data. So we use the Google Cloud Firebase database based on our client's preference. So let's say here you have ACDS12 alpha. That's the player ID given by our client. And he plays a few data, like he plays on April 22nd. And on that time, he play a few rounds. And in each round, there will be a list of signs, accuracies, and reaction times. We actually collect some data during the playtest day, and we analyze them. And there's one interesting we found is, as there are more repeated letters, the reaction time gets decreased, which makes sense because players are more familiar with the sign. Next.
So our deliverable package includes a sign language model, a functional game with adjustable parameters, research data collection APIs, and documentations. Reflecting our project, we did quite well in making our system compatible with both research and game modes. Our model can detect all the 26 letters with high accuracy. And we have frequent iteration and always kept priority straight. In terms of scope control, we balance simplicity with flexibility to integrate fresh ideas. And through it all, our team vibe was unbeatable. We have a supportive, collaborative, and friendly work environment. For future considerations, if time permits, we can include not just the alphabet, but also words and phrases. We can also provide users with more real-time feedback, pinpointing exactly where the adjustments can be made to improve the accuracy. And we can also enrich our gameplay experience to make it more enjoyable. For next steps, we are excited about the future of our project. First, we plan to release our game on Edge.io, making it accessible to a wider audience. Second, we see its potential for research applications, which could lead us to a scholarly paper based on our technology and innovations. And special thanks to everyone who helped us develop the game. We are now open for questions.
Why did you decide on using a JSON file instead of exposing those parameters in a user interface?
So we want to balance between the game and the research tool. So we want to only, so for the players, there will be a game, but for our client, there will be a research tool. So we kind of create the boundary between the two, like purpose.
And it's our client who wants that data, so the users don't have to access those data.
Well, is there any plan to release the game just as a game and learning tool without the research end of things?
Yeah, and that's what we mentioned for the next steps. Like we would like to release our game on Edge.io as a pure game version.
As a follow-up to Mo's question, do you imagine approaching a potential partner for this release?
I think we already have a build for that release version, but we'll also would like to add more features if we had time in the summer.
By partner, I mean, for example, Babbel or Duolingo, something like that.
So yeah, for that question, I guess, yeah, we're, if we got time during the summer, if we can get her back around and make like a mobile version and pitch it to Duolingo and those like more accessible platform, that would be really nice of it.
For the infinite Roomba sort of part of the game, it takes a little while for the thing to recognize the hand gesture, right? So how have you calibrated the oncoming letters to take into account how long it's going to take the computer to recognize what you're trying to do? Does that make sense?
Yeah, for sure. So what we did is the computer takes some time to recognize the sign, and there's also a gesture hold time for the player to like maintain the gesture. So that gesture hold time can be is very short for the second game, so that you can kind of hit it fast. And we calibrated the maximum speed as well as how fast the obstacle is approaching based on how much time the computer would need to recognize the gesture. So the maximum speed, as we tested, it shouldn't be affected by if the computer hasn't recognized it yet.
Does it take different amounts of time to recognize different gestures? Are there some that it does much more quickly than others?
Usually they take about like the same amount for each gesture. It's almost like instant. Except for maybe the two motion one, those take a little longer. But like it's like a like small enough to be like.
Yeah, like for C or B, you can hold for a while to like recognize it, but for like for G and Z, you cannot just hold that.
Right.